I'm going to read some of this to you. I made a short, and under short, uh, I was sleeping and someone they were knocking on the back door of the shack, and the thing of it is it's kind of like a closed lock patio, and the neighbors that have access to patio, they were at work, so it wasn't them. So it was the landlord's daughter. And the landlord is like 72, 73, 74, and he has a bout of pneumonia. So he's in the hospital. So usually he goes and pays the electric bill. And he's paid the electric bill for about 2 years now, a little bit more. He pays the bill, you give him the money, and you don't have to leave home, you know. But the daughter of the owner came and said, "Hey, could you pay the electric bill?" And she left a note. And she tried to Google translate the English. And it's not that the English was incomprehensible, but I'm waking up from sleep and she hands me a note that is awkward. So finally, I get my vision. I get adjusted. I have on a bathrobe, and then we start talking about what's going on with the bill. Now the people next door and the little sweetheart in the other house, they had already explained to me about the bill and paying the bill. So this lady had driven all the way across from another colonia to talk once again about the bill. But we got it all straightened out. Well, it turned out that there were several bills, about 4 or 5 bills, because we got 4 or 5 units, because this guy owns like a quarter of the block. So we had about 4 or 5 units, and it was difficult to tell which unit was which. Now, what you see here is a meter that looks like a Mexican meter. But what's going to happen is when you try and correlate the meter with the bill, you got to find out the number of the meter. And to find out the number of the meter, it's going to go nos, no punto me re mi te dor, which is great Portuguese and Latin, but really, really bad Spanish, because numero starts with mu. So if you're going to abbreviate number, you are going to abbreviate it NUB or NU. Now that can be nome de metero in Portuguese. That'd be fine. Nome de, and that could be abbreviation for it, and that punto, which would maybe a Gaian would serve as saying that, hey, this word has been truncated, it has been apocapated. Okay, but it's just complicated. So you're looking at what they got on that thing, and you're thinking, and you're not wide awake, and you're thinking in Portuguese, and it looks like no numero. So it's no metro, no metero, no metero, and no metero in Portuguese would be in the meter person if you actually read it in like Latin and Portuguese. So now I can't find where the number is on the meter. So I go to ChatGPT and I take a picture of the meter, I take a picture of the bill, and I ask ChatGPT to tell me, based upon the barcodes, which meter is which. Well, ChatGPT can't find out which meter is which either. And then so the beloved neighbor, she comes over and she says that my bill is 385 pesos, but there's a bill of 2,000 pesos. So I'm like, now how can this really be my bill? And I ask her, ¿cómo tú sabes este está mi bill? ¿Y cómo tú corresponda al bill con el meter? So I asked repeatedly. She says she's certain, and so I'm like, man, I don't want to go to 4 or 5 people and say, hey, this small bill is mine and this big bill is yours, and then it's going to cause resentments and harsh feelings, especially if I get it wrong. People are not going to be forgiving. So I go, like I said, to ChatGPT. I get it all worked out. I figure out that what they're trying to say in Spanish is number of the meter. And right above this 202854, if you were looking at the meter, it's going to have the number of the meter in that little white box. See that little white box there? That's going to be the meter number. Okay, now when you get the bill, they're going to give you a ORI reader, or I don't know what it is, but you put your phone on this little square box, and it's going to pop up and give you all of this information. And it's going to be 148 pages to tell you how to deal with, it's going to be a guarda de consumo responsabilidad. Okay, and let's read a little bit of this so you can get it. And you can get this anywhere. It's the Comisión Federal de Electricidad, CFE. Or they call it CFE, I think, but it's CFE. Okay, and then they're going to come down and they're going to say, somos más ahorros. We save you money. Cuide de consumo responsabilidad. Indice. Now, indice is a verb. It's a Latin verb. It's ego indigo. Ego in or in Italian, io indice. And it is going to be the start, but it's a verb, unlike in English. And in Spanish, they're not showing it as a verb. But the way you know it's not Spanish, this is very important, is you see that accent on that I in DC? That tells you that that word is Latin, Greek, or Italian. It's not Spanish. Because in Spanish, you are not going to have a word that's like that. That's how you can tell. Okay, so they're going to go to introduction, construction de la casa, espacios interior, exteriores, uh, como cobra la energía. How do you, on page 86, how do we know how much it is? Como se cobra la energía. In Portuguese, you would say costo, you know, but but for the first time, I see como se cobra la energía. Now, in Spanish, you are not going to say cobra, but in this Spanish, you do say it. So I'm going to have to look up why cobra is cobra, but I hear it, so I know that it's cuesto, cost. And one of the reasons why it's going to be confusing is because questo and costa and total and all of that coming out of Italian and coming out of Latin, it's very confusing. It's very confusing because questa can also like mean when in Italian, and precio also is used in Spanish, in Mexican Spanish, but the problem with that is that that can also be confused with many other words. So that's probably why they're using cobra. You know. Okay, so energy and introduction. And I'm going to read the introduction, and you know how to find, you know where the meter number is now. You're going to be able to find it on the bill, and it's going to say the it's gonna be a number with some alphabet. It's gonna be an alphabetized number. That's how you're gonna tell it's a big bold alphabetized number. That's how you're gonna be able to tell. And I'm gonna put a picture of the meter here so that you can see exactly what's said. But here's a little bit of what's going on with this place. And you see these guys riding around in trucks, and I saw them riding around trucks for 2 years. I didn't know what CFE was. And, so now I know. Okay. Desde hasta más de 8 décadas, la Comisión Federal de Electricidad ha sido encargada de proporcionar electricidad a millones de mexicanos. Le es llegar a hogares industriales y donde se requiera para funcionar de manera adecuada gracias a la generación, transmisión, distribución y suministro de servicios básicos. Como instrucciones compromita, promueva entre los usuarios hogar y la eficiencia de la energética en las propias pequeñas encuentros un guía que va desde la instalación eléctrica hasta su uso final de la energía de los electrodomésticos y otros aparatos. Now, aparatos is aparelhos in Portuguese, but aparatos in Latin is like that machine that works. So an apparato is like an apparatus in English. So, okay. And so they're talking about, that the head of the agency is these gracias and, antes de comenzar, before we start with it. And here's the history, so you can see the history. Lorenzo Cardenas, and he was supposedly a really good president. I mean, everything's really named after him everywhere. And, Electrificar por Mexico. And there's the system, and here's how the system has increased from 1945 to 1960. La generación en México aumentó de 600 a 3,000 milliwatts. ¿Sí? Y la mitad era apropiada por la CFE. Desde su creación y hasta nuestros días, el objetivo no ha cambiado. ¿Sí? So, very good stuff. And they're going to tell you, okay, el primero grande proyecto de generación de la CFE se puso en marcha. See, now, in marcha is French. It's a French verb, and it means to walk. But it's like you're marching along and you're in the army, and the guy says, to the rear, march. That's what they're talking about. But it's not quite to merely to walk. It also means in train. Amo en train. It's in train in Spanish. It's a way of using a gerund in place of a gerund. So si puso in marcha, si in continuation. So it doesn't actually mean andar, caminar. It's not actually that, it's actually French. So in marcha, en 1938, y fue hidroeléctrico. ¿Sí? Unos años después, la Comisión aumentaba industriales y ciudades que, por, por décadas hasta carecido de energía. Carecido, carecido de energy. I have no idea what carecido de energía means. Okay, I know that it having carecido energía, something like carry the energy, but I'm not sure. Okay, so that's gonna get you up and running on the bill. And read a little bit of Spanish, probably read it horribly, and I understand that. But the nice thing is that where you know where to get all of the information on the bill. So there it is. There it is. You got it all. You know. So if you ever have to go to Mexico, and there's going to be other YouTube videos, they're going to say, like, okay, what name do you have to have the bill in? Well, I wanted to get the internet, but I couldn't get the internet because, like I said to the guy, I said, hey, yo quiero que tú conectame a la internet. Y él dijo, pero yo no puedo conectarte porque tú estás un ilegal, tú estás un inmigrante, tú no tienes papeles mexicanos, tú necesitas una matrícula. Okay, I didn't have a matrícula mexicano, so I couldn't get it. Okay, and it's all with the 180-day visa rule and residency and this and that and that and other. Okay, well, that's no big deal. So Mexico understands that. So they understand that the bills of the utilities is not always in the name of the person who is in the house or in the unit. And so they are really, really flexible about that. So you can have your utilities if you ever have a problem where you have to show a matricula or something like that. You can have utilities in another name, and Mexico is just fine with it. Okay, that's how to get yourself some electricity in Mexico.